Hello, I'm Priestess Autumn Phoenix, Priestess of Coven of the Phoenix, located here in New York City. Find me on my social media platforms at Facebook, Magically Blessed. Find me on Instagram at Autumn_Phoenix1. Find me on YouTube at Autumn Phoenix. Find me on Periscope at Autumn Phoenix. Find me on Twitter at Priestess Autumn. I also have open enrollment to my coven for anybody who is seriously interested in living a more magically filled life. So tonight is all about bonding with your familiar. When you think about familiars, you can't help but think about witches. When you think about witches, you can't help but think about black cats. Not every witch has a black cat. I don't have a cat. I have a doggo. Matter of fact, I have a pit bull. I have a close friend who has a cat, a black cat, another black cat, and a dog that is mixed with a pit bull and a boxer. She's quite large. If you were to follow me on Instagram, I interact with her page so much because that dog is basically a miracle that really just appeared out of nowhere. So if you want to know more about familiars, I suggest that you follow me at Autumn_Phoenix1 on Instagram and learn a little bit more about it. Familiars work with witches in their craft. Familiars work with witches in their craft. Familiars are usually cats, dogs, rabbits, domesticated animals. Do not attempt to work with a wild animal such as a wolf, a raccoon, a coyote. Any wild animal is a no-no. Do not approach these animals. These animals will attack you and potentially kill you. So do work with an animal that you are familiar with. Basically, honestly, do not work with wild animals. They are not going to help you in your craft. They are either going to seriously injure you or kill you. Alright, so just to put that out there, just to be so blunt, because other witches are a little bit like, oh, you can work with any animal that you want. No, you can't. Okay, a bear is not going to help you in your craft. Alright, a crocodile is not going to help you in your craft. Those animals are going to viciously kill you. Alright, so when you think of familiar, you think of a cat or a dog or any animal that is at least a little bit domesticated that won't send you to the hospital or send you to the morgue. Alright, I know some witches that have been brutally attacked by skunks, possums, sometimes even wild rabbits. So just don't do it. Do not try to make a wild animal your familiar. Some witches think that if they work with a coyote that they are more powerful. Coyotes are not pets. Okay? Do not work with them. They will attack you. A witch's familiar lives in or near the home. Sometimes it is worked with in witchcraft. Sometimes, not all the time. Another thing too, you cannot force an animal to work with you in witchcraft. Because the two of you are only going to get frustrated and annoyed, and the spell is going to go absolutely nowhere. You cannot force an animal to work with you in witchcraft. So don't do that. Familiars and the witch share certain traits. There are certain things that are similar about them. This animal, this familiar, symbolizes something inherent about you. So if your familiar is a cat, you might be a little bit catty yourself. If your familiar is a boxer, type of dog, you might have a little bit of a right hook too. So whatever type of familiar you have, you share some traits with that animal. If you are in the process of choosing an animal to work with, you really have to take practical interest. Practical. Don't go crazy. Take practical interest into consideration first. Be practical. Be smart. I've just told you, do not work with wild animals. They will attack you or kill you. All right? Your primary obligation is to provide a safe and decent quality of life for any living creature in your care. If you are not able to take care of a cat, don't get a cat and then try to work witchcraft with that same cat. It's not going to work. Because you're not taking care of that cat naturally before asking that same cat to help you supernaturally. So if you don't actually give a shit about that cat or that dog or that rabbit or that chinchilla that you want to make your familiar, don't work with it. Matter of fact, that's not a pet. You cannot force an animal to work with you in witchcraft. You can't do it. Sometimes a familiar chooses you. Sometimes a familiar chooses you. Rather than you actively seeking it out, try putting your intention out there and see what comes along. Your familiar may be a rat. Some people have rats as pets. Your familiar may be a bird, like those little brown birds that you see out on the street. It may be a seagull, an eagle. Your familiar very oftentimes finds you. So if you want to have a familiar, the best thing that you can do is put that intent out there and see what animal comes along that wants to work with you. You want to be, when you have your familiar, you want to be in sync with it. What that means is you want to, if it's possible, listen, if it's possible and if the animal wants to, let your familiar, your cat or your dog or whatever you have, let your familiar settle on your chest or, a little bit close to your body, that you feel or you see the rhythm of its breath. You want to try slowing your breath to match your familiar's breath. Now listen, if a cat does not want to lay on you or lay on your chest, don't force that cat, because it'll scratch you or bite you or even spit. Some cats do spit. Definitely don't do that to a dog because it'll bite you. Alright, so don't force an animal. If an animal does not want to lay on you right there and then, if a cat does not want to lay on your lap right there and then, there's nothing that you can do. You cannot force an animal to work with you if it does not want to work with you. If you are the type of person that works with energy, if you do energy healing, if you work with energy, you might want to try using that to soothe your pet. And of course, as always, do not replace witchcraft with actual medical help for your pet. Okay? Besides that, working with the energy healing in conjunction with actual medication, it can't hurt. It'll move things along a little bit faster, and it may help Now, it will help your animal heal a little bit faster. So let's say your animal has something removed from his body, is recovering from surgery. If you are the type of witch that works exclusively with energy, use that same power to help the recovery process. But of course, like I just said, do not replace witchcraft, no spell, no ritual with actual medical care. Go out on, if your animal is willing to do so, go out on a nature walk. If you know a safe area in your neighborhood to take your familiar, your cat or your dog off its leash, let him or her lead you on a nature walk. You may be very much surprised by the adventure that familiar takes you down. So if you have a dog and you live in a wooded area and you feel safe to take that same dog off of its leash, then let it go and let it explore and follow it. You know, of course, keep an eye out for it, especially if there happen to be other animals out there. You know what I'm saying? Just keep an eye out on your animal. And you never know, it might lead you to find something in the forest that you may need to be more advanced in your witchcraft. I know a lot of witches use cat fur, cat whiskers, dog fur, dog whiskers, and sometimes snake skin to put in what is known as spell bags. As long, you can do that. You can collect whiskers and fur and snake skin as long as it does not pose any harm to the animal. And this type of spell ingredients does enhance your spell work. It enhances it exponentially, incredibly. Especially when it comes from an animal that you actually care about. When the moon is full or when the moon is new, you might want to include it in your moon rituals. If you plan on casting a spell that might benefit from your familiar's energy, you can invite that familiar into your magical circle. Matter of fact, if you have an animal in your house that is not your familiar, you know what? That same animal can still enter your magical circle because animals enter our lives in perfect love and perfect trust. So even if that animal, even if your pet is not your familiar, it can still come into your magical circle because animals enter our lives in perfect love and perfect trust. So depending on what your animal is and whether it is practical, you know, if the animal actually wants to come into the room or come into the kitchen or come into the bathroom or come into the attic or come into the garage with you because you can't force an animal, you know, try letting your animal in and just waiting to see what it does. Most cats will just lay down. Most dogs will lay down. If he or she chooses to join, then be flexible. I said this earlier, trying to control what happens will leave you both annoyed. And there's nothing worse than an annoyed cat. Because cats have a very good memory, and maybe a couple hours later they might attack you for bothering them. So be careful when you're using cats because cats get annoyed very quickly. They're very canny. All right? So open yourself up to improv and follow your familiar's lead. Remember, you are there to learn from them, not the other way around. You are there to learn from your familiar, not the other way around. If you want to protect your animal or your familiar, or if your pet is your familiar, this works best for animals that have collars. So you might want to consider a protection charm for your animal to imprint your energy or goodwill in its life. So you might want to choose, you have to choose crystals or pendants that have meaning to you. You want to leave the charms out in moonlight or pass them through the smoke of burning rosemary. Periodically to charge them with protective energy. And make sure that the crystal that you are using, that you are going to put into water, make sure that same crystal is not going to be destroyed by water. So the best crystal to use is a clear crystal quartz. Clear crystal quartz can be used for all magical purposes. If you want to incorporate plants with your familiar, listen, be very careful with plants for either magical or medicinal reasons. Not all plants that are safe for humans are safe for animals. So I might be able to chomp down on lavender, but if my dog takes lavender, she'll die. So let me say that again. Just because a plant is safe for a human does not mean that same plant is safe for an animal. All right? If you are a kitchen witch, look up recipes for your animal. Cats love fish. Cats love tuna fish. Dogs love bone marrow. Dogs love bacon. Dogs love egg whites. Just make sure that the food that you are giving your familiar is not going to hurt or kill them. Back to what I just said. Just because a food is safe for humans does not mean it's safe for your familiar or your pet. All right? You can, if you have a cauldron or a pot, you can chant your spell for the protection or the spiritual advice for your pet. You can stir your pot or stir your cauldron clockwise. How many times you want to do it. So just be very careful and don't make any assumptions that because a food is safe for you, that it's safe for your pet or familiar. Massages. Some animals love massages, such as cats and dogs. Massages help to promote safety and security. All of these things are crucial to maintaining a healthy relationship with your familiar. I know dogs love to be scratched behind their ears. Some cats love being scratched behind their ears too. Just find the spot that your animal feels most comfortable being massaged, and that will help the animal to understand that they're safe and their security is with you. How about charging your pet's water? So once a month, you might want to leave your pet's water in the full moon light before giving it to your pet. So you want to place a crystal in the water. Once again, a crystal that will not dissolve in the water. And perhaps leave that same crystal in the water overnight to calm the nerves of your pet, to promote peaceful sleep, and to give that animal more psychic energy, so that when it is working with you, it can transmute information to you, either that will either help you with your craft or help you work better with that same familiar. So those are my 10 ways that you can bond with your familiar. Let me tell you again where you can find me on social media. You can find me on Facebook at Magically Blessed, Instagram at autumn_Phoenix1, YouTube at Autumn Phoenix, Periscope at Autumn Phoenix, and on Twitter at Priestess Autumn. I also have open enrollment to my coven. For anybody who is serious about living a more magically filled life, contact me on Instagram for more details. So I will be speaking to you guys shortly. Bye, everybody.